And what this is a collection of ancient games that have been revived with brand new artwork and components, and even a bit of updated rules, but these games come from different places like Japan, Mongolia, Nepal, and Korea. The game that we have from Japan is called Hasimi Shogi, and this is a game where players are going to be starting with units on both sides of the board, and then you'll be able to take turns moving those units, and you can move them in a straight line, either horizontally or vertically in any distance, or instead you can use your movement action to jump over one other piece. The goal of this game is to try and win by creating a row in any direction of 5 of your own pieces, but you can also capture opponent pieces as well if you're able to sandwich them between 2 of your own. And the next game we have offered in this campaign is called Jarmo, and this one originates in Mongolia. And the way that this game works is that each player is going to be starting with 5 units on their side of the board, and then players are just going to be taking turns moving 1 unit, 1 space, with the goal of trying to get as many of their units into their opponent's starting locations, because if you're able to get enough of them over there, that's going to be triggering the end of the game. While you're doing this, if you're able to get one of your units on top of an opponent's unit, it's actually going to remove your opponent's unit from the game, and it's also going to upgrade your unit, and it does also open up the opportunity to get some of your captured units back onto the board. Once the end of the game is triggered, players are going to be gaining victory points for the units that they have remaining on the board, and of course getting more victory points if your units are located in your opponent's starting locations. The player with the most victory points wins the game. The next game offered here is called Yet, and this one originates from Korea, but the way that players are going to be playing this game is that each player is going to have 4 horses that they're trying to get completely around the board. On a player's turn, they're going to be rolling these 4 wooden dowels, and depending on the results of that roll, that's going to determine how many movement points you get. If they all roll completely upward or completely downward, then you also get another roll at the end of your turn. The cool thing here is that since you do have 4 different tokens that you can assign your movement to, you can try to move the appropriate ones to get them in the right locations to take advantage of these shortcuts, or even get tokens to end up stacked on top of each other, allowing you to move multiple tokens with a single movement. The first player to get all of their horses around the board and back to the starting location wins the game. And the last game we have is Bag Chell, and this is actually a game that I did cover in some previous footage, and I think I did a pretty good job there, so I'll just go ahead and roll that previous footage for you now. And this is an abstract strategy game that originated in Nepal. And something that makes this abstract strategy game really interesting is that it's actually asymmetric. So one player is going to be playing as 4 tigers that start out on the board, and then the other player is going to get 20 goats that they're going to be placing out on the board. And the game starts out like that, with the goat player being able to put a goat anywhere on the board on their turn, and then the tiger player can move one of their tigers. Once the goat players put all their goats out on the board, instead of placing a goat, they'll just be able to move one of their goats 1 space, just like the tiger player can move one of their tigers 1 space. But a tiger can capture a goat by jumping over it, just like you would in checkers. So if there's an empty space on the other side of an adjacent goat, then the tiger player can jump to that space, capturing that goat. And if the tiger player is able to capture 5 goats, then they win the game. But the goats are going to win a little bit differently. The goats are trying to trap the tigers so that they're not able to make any movements or capture any goats, and if the goats are able to position themselves in order to do that, then the goat player wins the game. I do recommend checking out this campaign if it does seem interesting to you. I really like what Lemery Games is doing here by reviving some of these ancient games and making them more well known around other regions of the world, and they've done quite great work in their past campaigns, so if you do want to check them out, I do have a link to this campaign in the description below.